A cold night. A mother sits in a broken-down car, shivering, holding her baby close. She has nothing left. No home. No food. No hope. Then, a knock on the window, she looks up, and sees him, Keanu Reeves. What happens next will shock you. Hey there, before we dive back into the story, let us know where you're watching from. If you love stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We've got another amazing story coming your way tomorrow. Sarah held her baby tightly, wrapping the thin blanket around his tiny body. The car was freezing. Her breath came out in small white clouds. She rubbed her hands together, trying to bring back feeling to her numb fingers. Her baby, Oliver, whimpered in his sleep. His tiny face was red from the cold. She pressed a soft kiss to his forehead, whispering, "Mommy's here. I've got you." But the truth was, she was scared. They had been living in this car for weeks. She had tried everything, applying for jobs, looking for shelters, asking for help. But it was like the world had turned its back on her. She stared out the window at the empty street. It was past midnight. The city lights flickered, and the cold wind howled. Sarah sighed, resting her head against the seat. How did her life come to this? She closed her eyes for a moment, exhaustion pulling at her. Then, a knock on the window. Sarah jolted awake, her heart racing. She turned her head slowly, and froze. Standing outside, looking directly at her, was Keanu Reeves, her breath caught in her throat. Was she dreaming? Keanu tapped the window again, his eyes filled with concern. "Are you okay?" he asked through the glass. Sarah's hands shook as she rolled the window down just a little. I'm fine," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Keanu's eyes flickered toward the back seat. He saw the baby. His face changed. A mix of sadness, concern, and something else. Without hesitation, he said, "Stay here." Then, he walked away. Sarah's heart pounded. What was happening? A few minutes later, Keanu returned, with 2 cups of coffee and a bag of food. Sarah stared in disbelief as he handed them to her. "Eat," he said gently. Tears welled up in her eyes. She hadn't eaten a full meal in days. She opened the bag, a warm sandwich. The smell alone made her stomach growl. She hesitated. Keanu smiled softly. "It's okay. You don't have to be embarrassed." Sarah took a small bite, and immediately, tears rolled down her cheeks. She covered her mouth, trying to hold back sobs. No one had been this kind to her in so long. Keanu sat down on the curb next to her car. "What happened?" he asked gently. Sarah hesitated. But something about him, his kindness, his voice, made her feel safe. So, she told him everything, how she had lost her job. How her landlord kicked her out. How she had nowhere to go. Keanu listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't judge. He just listened. When she finished, he exhaled deeply. Then he said something that changed everything. "You're not alone." Sarah blinked. "What?" Keanu stood up and pulled out his phone. "I'm going to help you." Sarah's eyes widened. "You don't have to." Keanu raised a hand, stopping her. "I want to." He made a call. Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. Within an hour, everything changed. A hotel room was booked in her name. Warmth. A bed. A safe place for Oliver. But Keanu didn't stop there. The next morning, Sarah woke up in a soft bed, Oliver sleeping peacefully beside her. She thought it was a dream, until there was another knock at the door. She opened it, and there he was again. Keanu smiled. "Come on. We have somewhere to go." Sarah followed him, holding Oliver close. He took her to a job interview. A good job. A real chance. And later that day, she received a call. She got the job. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She turned to Keanu, shaking her head in disbelief. "Why? Why are you helping me?" Keanu smiled softly. Because once, someone helped me, too. Sarah stared at him. She had heard the stories before. How Keanu had suffered, lost people he loved, faced struggles, but never stopped being kind, and now, he had changed her life. That night, as she tucked Oliver into a warm bed, she whispered, "We're going to be okay, baby." For the first time in a long time, she truly believed it, because of one man, Keanu Reeves, and his simple act of kindness. Sarah sat quietly in the small hotel room, the soft hum of the heater filling the air. It was the first time in months she didn't feel the bite of the cold against her skin. Oliver was fast asleep in the bed, his tiny fingers clutching the new blanket Keanu had brought them. Watching him sleep peacefully brought tears to her eyes. Just days ago, she had been huddled in that freezing car, feeling completely alone and hopeless. Now, she was warm, safe, and filled with a sense of hope she hadn't felt in years. But Keanu's kindness didn't stop there. The next morning, Sarah woke up to a soft knock on her hotel room door. She gently moved out of bed, careful not to wake Oliver, and opened the door. Standing there was a woman with a warm smile and a folder in her hands. "Hi, Sarah," the woman asked softly. "My name is Linda. Keanu sent me. I'm here to help you with housing and getting settled." Sarah's heart swelled. How could one person be so giving? Linda explained that Keanu had arranged for her to meet with a social worker to find stable housing and childcare for Oliver. He had also contacted a local women's shelter that offered programs for single mothers trying to get back on their feet. Over the next few weeks, Sarah worked with Linda, attending meetings, filling out paperwork, and slowly piecing her life back together. With Keanu's support, she found a small apartment in a safe neighborhood, a place she and Oliver could finally call home. The job Keanu helped her get turned out to be better than she had imagined. The hours were flexible, allowing her to spend time with Oliver, and her co-workers were kind and supportive. Every day, as she clocked in, she felt a growing sense of pride. One afternoon, as Sarah was organizing her desk, her manager approached her with a letter. It was simple, handwritten on crisp white paper. "Dear Sarah, I'm so proud of the steps you've taken. Remember, you are strong, and you are worthy of a good life. If you ever need anything, know that you have people who care about you. Keep moving forward. Warm regards." Keanu. Tears welled up in her eyes as she read the letter. It wasn't just the words, it was knowing that someone believed in her. Determined to pass on the kindness she had received, Sarah began volunteering at the women's shelter that had helped her. She met other mothers facing the same struggles she had endured, women who felt lost and scared, just as she once did. With each visit, she shared her story, encouraging them not to give up. She brought small care packages, filled with essentials like diapers, baby formula, and toiletries, gifts from one mother to another. Oliver thrived in their new home, his laughter filling the small apartment with joy. Every time Sarah looked at him, she was reminded of the night Keanu had knocked on her window and how that single moment had changed everything. But their story didn't end there. Months later, Sarah received an invitation in the mail. It was from Keanu, inviting her and Oliver to a charity event he was hosting to support families in need. When they arrived at the event, Sarah was awestruck. The room was filled with people from all walks of life, single parents, community leaders, and those who had been touched by Keanu's kindness. Keanu spotted them from across the room and walked over, his smile warm and genuine. "Sarah. Oliver. I'm so glad you could make it." Oliver's eyes widened with excitement. "Is that the nice man who gave us food, Mommy?" Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. That's him." Keanu crouched down to Oliver's level. "Hey, buddy. Are you taking good care of your mom?" Oliver grinned, nodding eagerly. "Yes. Mommy says we're superheroes now." Keanu chuckled, his eyes glistening. "You both are. The bravest superheroes I know." As the evening went on, Sarah met others who shared similar stories, people who had been at their lowest but found hope through Keanu's kindness. They laughed, shared stories, and celebrated the power of compassion. By the end of the night, Sarah knew one thing for certain: she would never be alone again. Keanu's act of kindness had set off a chain reaction, creating a community of support and love. And Sarah, once a struggling mother in a cold car, had become a beacon of hope for others. As they left the event, Sarah hugged Keanu tightly, whispering, "Thank you for saving us." Keanu smiled softly. "You saved yourselves. I just gave a little push." And with that, Sarah and Oliver walked out into the cool night air, their hearts full, their spirits unbreakable, and their future brighter than ever before, because sometimes, all it takes is one person to change your life. And for Sarah and Oliver, that person was Keanu Reeves. The night air was crisp, but for the first time in a long while, Sarah didn't feel the cold. She held Oliver's tiny hand as they walked toward the car that Keanu had arranged to take them home. As they drove through the city streets, she looked out the window, lost in thought. Just months ago, she had been sitting in her broken-down car, exhausted and hopeless. Now, she had a home, a job, and a future. And it was all because one man had stopped, noticed, and cared. Oliver, who had been quiet most of the ride, suddenly spoke. "Mommy, do you think the nice man helps other people too?" Sarah smiled, stroking his soft curls. "I think he helps more people than we can ever imagine, sweetheart." And she was right. In the weeks that followed, Sarah kept in touch with Keanu through Linda. He never sought recognition for what he had done. He never asked for anything in return. But Sarah wanted to thank him, not just with words, but with actions. She continued volunteering at the shelter, helping other struggling mothers the way she had been helped. With every woman she met, she saw a reflection of herself, the fear, the exhaustion, but also the flicker of hope. And she made it her mission to ignite that hope in every single one of them. One evening, after finishing a shift at work, Sarah sat down at her small kitchen table. Oliver was playing with his toy cars on the floor. She reached for a pen and paper and began writing, "Dear Keanu, I don't know if I'll ever find the right words to thank you. The night you knocked on my car window, I was at my lowest. I had lost everything. I felt invisible, like the world had moved on without me. But you saw me. You didn't just offer kindness, you gave me a second chance. Because of you, Oliver and I have a home. I have a job. And most importantly, I have hope. I want you to know that your kindness didn't just change my life, it inspired me to help others, just like you helped me. From the bottom of my heart, thank you." With gratitude, Sarah and Oliver. She folded the letter, placed it in an envelope, and sealed it. The next day, she gave it to Linda, who promised to deliver it to Keanu personally. A few days later, Sarah received a message from Linda. "He read your letter. He was deeply moved. He said he's proud of you." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. Keanu didn't need to say anything more. Those words alone meant everything. Years passed. Sarah continued to thrive. She built a career, found a stable life for herself and Oliver, and never stopped paying kindness forward. Oliver grew up knowing the story of the man who had helped them. He carried the lesson with him, always looking for ways to help others, just like Keanu had done for them. One day, when Oliver was old enough to understand, he asked Sarah, "Mommy, do you think we'll ever see him again?" Sarah smiled, pulling her son into a hug. "Maybe, sweetheart. But even if we don't, we'll always carry his kindness with us. Because some people come into your life like a miracle." And Keanu Reeves had been the miracle that saved them. And though he had walked away that night after helping them, his kindness never left. It continued to ripple through the world, touching lives in ways he would never even know, and that was the true power of a good heart.